When my son informed me that I wouldn't be welcome in his home for Christmas, I gave a calm smile, got into my vehicle, and placed a single phone call. By the time New Year's Day arrived, I had ensured that their mortgage payments were terminated, and that move was merely the opening step in a much broader plan. Justice had to be restored, and arrogance deserved to be humbled. You won't believe what I did after that, but before we dive into the rest, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and let us know where you're listening from down in the comments section. I could whip up my classic roast turkey this year, I suggested, sinking deeper into Michael's sleek leather sofa, the one with the sage stuffing your mother used to adore. Do you remember how she'd always say it tasted better than her grandmother's? The sentence lingered in the cozy air between us, blending with the aroma of Isabella's overpriced vanilla-scented candles. Michael shifted awkwardly beside me, his wedding ring glinting beneath the lights from their towering 12-foot Christmas tree. I noticed a subtle change in his body. His shoulders drew inward as if preparing for an emotional hit. Dad, I hate to say this, but you're not welcome here for Christmas. The statement landed like a punch to the chest. I blinked, stunned, sure I hadn't heard correctly. What do you mean by that? Why on earth wouldn't I be welcome? Michael avoided eye contact, his gaze locked onto the marble coffee table, the very one I had helped him choose last spring, back when Isabella decided their old decor was no longer classy enough. Isabella's parents are visiting, and they'd really prefer you not be around. My hands turned ice cold. They'd prefer. It's just simpler this way, Dad. You know how our family is with their traditions. They have their own way of celebrating things. His voice got quieter with each sentence, like he was folding into himself, word by word. I looked around the room, the silk curtains I'd purchased when Isabella had grumbled about privacy concerns, the hardwood floors, funded by the second mortgage I took out, the crown molding that maxed out my credit card. Every inch of this home was soaked in my fingerprints, my sacrifices, my unconditional love for my son. Their own way, I repeated deliberately. And what exactly does that mean, Michael? He winced. Dad, don't make this harder than it already is. From where I sat, I could see into the kitchen, where Isabella's brand new KitchenAid mixer sat on the counter, the professional grade, one she had to have for her brief holiday baking obsession that fizzled out after 3 weeks. $2,000 of my money, likely used no more than twice since October. Where exactly am I supposed to spend Christmas? Then, my voice came out softer than I expected. Michael's expression collapsed. Maybe you could. I don't know. Visit Aunt Rosa, or we could plan something the weekend after. The weekend after. Like Christmas was just another calendar entry that could be casually postponed. I rose slowly, my knees aching after 8 long years of bearing this emotional and financial burden on my own. I see. Dad, hold on, please. But I was already walking toward the front door, past the family portraits where my face had gotten smaller and blurrier with each new frame, past the coat closet stuffed with Isabella's endless collection of overpriced jackets. My hand reached for the doorknob, solid, frigid, and familiar beneath my fingers. Son, I said, without turning around, tell Isabella's parents, Feliz Navidad. The December chill slapped my face as I stepped outside toward my old pickup. Behind me, I heard Michael call my name just once, followed by the soft and certain click of the front door closing. Final, irrevocable. I sat in the driver's seat for a moment, the engine silent, watching the Christmas lights sparkle from windows in homes I'd never be invited into again. My phone buzzed, likely Michael, trying to patch things up with empty apologies and shallow excuses. I didn't pick up. Instead, I turned the key and drove straight into the darkness, leaving behind the glowing house I had purchased but would never truly belong to. The heater wheezed against the cold as I navigated through familiar streets. South Hills unfolded around me, each intersection holding the ghost of the man I used to be, the man who once believed that family was everything, the man who would have emptied his bank account to make his son smile. That man was gone. He had been a fool. I pulled up to a red light at 29th and Grand. A young father stood nearby, loading Christmas gifts into the trunk of his SUV, His children pressed their noses against the glass, from inside, finding it with breathless excitement. That had once been me and Michael. Before Isabella. Before I became nothing but an ATM with inconvenient feelings. The numbers danced through my head like a broken slot machine. $2,800 each month for 5 years. Even my calculator had given up last spring when I tallied the total. $140,000. More money than Maria and I had saved for our entire retirement. Gone. Just like that. As the light turned green, I pressed the accelerator. Harder than needed. The engine growled back in agreement. 5th Street. That's where I'd refinance our house, mine and Maria's, to help cover Michael's down payment. I still remember the look on the loan officer's face. Sympathy disguised as professionalism. "Mr. Flores, are you sure about this? You're risking a lot on someone else's property." Someone else's property. Not my son's future. Not my family's legacy. Just someone else's investment. Lincoln Street, the bank where I'd taken out a second mortgage when Michael lost his job 2 years ago. Just temporary. "Dad, I'll be back on my feet in no time." Isabella had stood beside him, a $700 designer, purse hanging from her shoulder, nodding sympathetically while calculating exactly how much my desperation could buy. As it turned out, it bought me nothing. I finally pulled into my cracked driveway, the one I couldn't afford to repair, because every spare penny vanished into their perfect suburban mirage. The porch light flickered, another home improvement. On a long list I couldn't touch. Inside, the house felt cavernous without Maria's laughter. The warmth of family was gone and it wasn't coming back. My phone rang as I fumbled with the keys. The ringtone echoed through the empty house. Isabella's name lit up the screen. No doubt ready to justify why I was to rough around the edges for her parents' refined holiday. Expectations. I'd waited 5 long years for this conversation. I answered on the 4th ring, just long enough to leave her guessing if I'd bother answering at all. "Dennis," Isabella purred, her voice coated in that syrupy sweetness she used when asking for help with utility bills or unexpected property taxes. "I heard about the little misunderstanding with Michael." "Misunderstanding?" I said, leaning against the cold kitchen counter, still in my coat. "I think everything was made very clear, Isabella. No misunderstanding at all. Look, I realize this probably feels harsh, but you need to understand things from my parents' point of view. They're incredibly traditional people. They expect a certain atmosphere during the holidays, a certain atmosphere," I echoed. "And what kind of atmosphere would that be?" A pause. "On the other end, I heard the rustling of shopping bags. Probably spending money that should have gone toward their mortgage payment, money that, apparently, had become my responsibility. Well, they're not used to your kind of cooking. All that spicy Mexican food and loud music, and frankly, Dennis, they're educated people. They expect conversations about current events, literature, art, you know?" The words struck deeper than a physical hit. 8 years of holding my tongue, enduring insults for Michael's sake, pretending not to notice the way she looked at me as if I were just hired help. My kind of cooking. My voice remained calm and composed. "You mean the food you enjoyed every Sunday for 3 years when money was tight? The tamales you claimed reminded you of your grandmother. That was different. We were grateful then, but now with my parents, now with your parents. The Mexican peasant can't embarrass you at your precious dinner table." The fake politeness vanished. "Don't be dramatic, Dennis. This isn't about race. It's about class. My father graduated summa cum laude from Washington State. My mother speaks 4 languages. They summer in the Hamptons. What exactly would you bring to the table? Tile-laying stories." Heat surged through my chest, but my voice held steady. "I built a company from the ground up after your husband's grandfather passed. I've employed over 50 people. I've paid more in taxes than your father made in his best year. Money isn't everything. Dennis, breeding matters, education matters. And frankly, Maria understood her place better than you understand yours." The phone line went silent. She had crossed a line I hadn't known was there until she stomped across it in her designer heels. "What did you just say about my wife?" "I'm saying she blended in better. She didn't cause trouble. She knew some places weren't meant for her." My hand clenched the phone, knuckles whitening. Maria had more class in one finger than your entire family tree. Oh, please. She was a house cleaner who got lucky. At least she knew to keep quiet. Isabella. My voice dropped to a low rumble. Listen closely. This conversation is over. We're done pretending we're family. You can't just, we're done. I said again and hung up. I placed the phone on the counter. Surprisingly steady, the kitchen felt smaller, yet somehow lighter, like something heavy had been removed from the air. I walked to my desk, opened the manila folder I'd been ignoring for months, bank statements, mortgage papers. 5 years of automatic transfers that had drained me dry while they lived like royalty. Time to stop the bleeding. Part 4. The first decision. Canceling the mortgage documents spread across the table. Like exhibits at a trial. 5 years of bank statements showed the same automatic payment, $2,800 disappearing each month into their account, a financial trail of my own foolishness. I grabbed a calculator and started tallying. Year 1, $33,600. Year 2, another $33,600. By year 3, I'd stopped buying myself clothes. Year 4, I was shopping at discount markets. This 5th year, I'd survive on peanut butter sandwiches to get by. $143,000 for $100, not counting the down payment. Utility bills I'd covered during Isabella's shopping sprees, the new roof, the yard, work, or the furniture deemed necessary. I leaned back, eyes blurring over the numbers. Maria's life insurance, my retirement, the college fund for grandkids I'd never meet, all gone. Poured into a home where I wasn't welcome at Christmas. I picked up my phone and dialed the bank. The automated system offered English or Spanish. How thoughtful. Customer service. This is Jennifer. How can I help you today? I need to cancel an automatic transfer, I said, voice firmer than it had been in years. Of course, sir. I'll need your account number and some verification. I gave her the details. She typed efficiently, no judgment in her tone. I see the transfer, $2,800 monthly to Wells Fargo. Account ending 7,423. How long has it been active? 5 years. The words left a bitter taste. Cancel effective immediately? I looked around at my worn kitchen. Peeling paint, leaky windows. Money I couldn't use because I funded someone else's mansion. Effective immediately. I confirmed. Done. The transfer is canceled. Anything else I can assist with? No, I said. And for the first time in years, the word felt good. That's everything. I hung up, outside. December darkened Spokane. Christmas lights glowed in windows where real families gathered. No judgment, no conditions. Next month, my budget would finally balance. I could fix the porch light, eat real food, maybe even travel. I gathered the mortgage papers and statements, proof of misplaced loyalty. Then I walked to the fireplace, lit a match, and watched 5 years of sacrifice turn to ash. The warmth on my face was the warmest I'd felt in years. A text came through, probably Michael, apologizing, or Isabella, needing money for new curtains. I didn't check instead. I poured a glass of good whiskey, one I'd been saving for a special moment that never came. Tonight was special enough. I raised my glass to Maria's photo, to the man I used to be, and the man I was becoming. Merry Christmas to me, I said and meant it. Part 5. Isabella's provocation. The next morning, sunlight streamed into my kitchen as I sipped a second cup of coffee for the first time in years. I wasn't bracing for money to disappear from my account. Freedom tasted better than the Colombian blend. At 10:47 a.m., my phone rang. Isabella's name lit up. Dennis, she said briskly, I need you to pick up my parents at the Spokane airport. Flight from Portland lands at 2 o'clock. I set my mug down, watching steam rise. Isabella, did you forget our conversation yesterday? Look, whatever that was, we have practical matters. You're free during the day, and they need a ride. Less than 24 hours after telling me I didn't belong at Christmas, she wanted me to be their chauffeur. And you're asking me because that's what family does. They help each other. Her voice turned sharp. Let's be honest, you're not even a threat. So just get in your truck and do it. There it was, The final insult, gift wrapped. What airline? I asked. Alaska Air, flight 447, Carousel 3. And Dennis? Don't embarrass us. Dress appropriately. Maybe that blue shirt from Michael's graduation. She hung up without a thank you. I looked at the time. 10:50 to a.m. Plenty of time. I poured more coffee, added sugar, and opened yesterday's crossword. 7 across. Delayed gratification. 12 letters. The answer would come eventually. Part 6. The airport tripat to 15 p.m. I was in my favorite chair with a fresh cup of Earl Grey and the Sunday paper. The crossword was finished. Postponement. My phone buzzed. Isabella. I ignored it. To 47 p.m. Another text preview. Dad, where are you? I turned the phone face dash down dot by 3:30. 6 more messages buzzed in. I brewed more tea, organized my junk drawer. Free time was a revelation. 3:45. A call from a known number, probably her parents. I let it ring. Outside, kids ran through yards. Christmas lights blinked. Normal families. No one stranded. For 15 p.m., the calls were nonstop. I unplugged the landline. Turned off the cell. Silence. Dinner was grilled cheese and tomato soup, comfort food I denied myself for years. It tasted like freedom. At 5 p.m. I was picking a movie when pounding shook the front door. Cody Jenkins's red face greeted me. What's wrong with you? We waited at the airport for 3 hours. Catherine followed. Perfect hair now a mess. Isabella brought up the rear. Smeared makeup and fury. You humiliated us. They had to take a $40 taxi. Get out of my house, I said. They froze. Excuse me. Cody barked. My house? Leave. Catherine sneered. You don't understand the mistake you've made. We know people. You'll regret this. This was a lesson, I said. On arrogance, on how you treat people. Isabella gasped. Who are you to teach lessons? You're nothing. I'm someone who stopped being your servant. Now go. Cody jabbed a finger. You have no idea who you're messing with. I can ruin you. Is that a threat? A promise, he growled. Catherine added. Actions have consequences. Yours will be public. Isabella tugged her father's sleeve. He's not worth it. Let's go. And they left, slamming the door behind them. They streamed out of my home like a vanquished battalion. Shoulders sagging and spirits deflated, yet Cody halted at the doorway. You'll be sorry, he warned, his voice low and bitter. Mark my words. I shut the door firmly behind them and turned the deadbolt, relishing the crisp click as it locked. Through the curtain-drawn window, I watched them clamber into their rented car, still bickering with each other as they disappeared into the deepening December night. The house seemed to breathe easier in their absence, as if their very presence had left a toxic residue now beginning to lift. Yet their parting threats reverberated through the silence they left behind. Public backlash. Influential allies. Powerful ties. I returned to the living room and picked up my tea, still warm, still comforting. For the first time in this chaotic ordeal, something faint stirred in me. Maybe it was unease, but stronger, sharper, and more insistent was anticipation. 3 days later, I sat sipping my morning coffee and flipping through the Spokane Review when I spotted a photo of myself staring up from page 3. The headline screamed, Spokane. Businessman abandons elderly couple at airport during holiday storm. My fingers froze around the coffee mug. There it was, my face, drained of color in a dated company headshot from at least 5 years ago. Beneath it ran a narrative that sent a chill through my bloodstream and ignited fury in my gut. According to the article, Cody and Catherine Jenkins visiting their daughter for Christmas were left alone at Spokane International Airport for over 4 hours on Sunday after a relative named Dennis Flores failed to collect them as arranged. The couple, both reportedly in their late 50s, endured freezing temperatures while the area was under an alleged winter storm advisory. Winter storm warning. In truth, it had been sunny 52 degrees and mild. We couldn't imagine being left like that, Cody, a retired banking executive, was quoted. We called over and over, but Mr. Flores never answered. We had no choice but to pay for a costly taxi in hazardous weather. At our age, That sort of neglect isn't just inconsiderate, it's dangerous. The article spiraled from there, packed with veiled accusations about my unstable behavior and concerning mental health. Cody had cast himself and Catherine as innocent, aging victims of a heartless man's sudden, senseless breakdown. Not a single mention of the snubbed Christmas dinner. No context about Isabella's endless demands or the years of financial manipulation. Just me, the cold-hearted villain, who stranded elderly relatives in a mythical blizzard. I set down my coffee and reread the piece slowly. Then again, with focus, the byline credited Patricia Morrison, lifestyle editor. I didn't recognize her name, but the tactics were familiar. Cody had called in favors, leveraging his banking network to get this planted right where it would cause the most harm. Sharp move, calculated, effective. For the first time in weeks, I felt something unexpected, reluctant admiration. These weren't just spoiled trust fund dependents throwing tantrums. They were organized, strategic, and they understood something. Crucial reputation in a tightly knit place like Spokane meant everything. One well-placed article could unravel a lifetime's worth of work. They had gone nuclear. I folded the paper with care and set it aside, my thoughts slipping into the same meticulous planning mindset that had built my career from nothing. This was no longer about missed airport pickups or even Christmas dinner. This had become war. I opened my laptop and launched into research mode, searching names. Combing through profiles, Cody Jenkins, Catherine Jenkins, Isabella Flores. Their digital footprints were sprawling and careless. Every connection, every post, every luxury carelessly displayed for public consumption. If they wanted to play chess, I'd show them how. Master moves. A glance at my wall calendar showed the date, December 18th, exactly 1 week until Christmas. 7 days to orchestrate something unforgettable. For the next 72 hours, I lived in a different realm. No longer was I Dennis Flores, the weary father who let family walk over him. I was once again Dennis Flores, the builder, the strategist, the man who climbed his way from nothing and could not let parasites destroy his legacy. My laptop became my war room. Tabs multiplied with open profiles like poker cards at a high-stakes table. Cody Jenkins, retired executive at First National Bank, member of the Spokane Country Club, treasurer of a local business league, a man who'd built a reputation for reliability and decorum, someone with a lot to lose. Catherine's Instagram painted a curated picture of elegance, charity brunches, fine wine tastings, scenic retreats to Coeur d'Alene. Each photo tagged #grateful or #blessed. Comment after comment praising her refined lifestyle. All financed, of course, with money that wasn't hers. Isabella's Facebook told the real story. Photos of their dream kitchen, the one I'd paid for. Restaurant check-ins during months I'd covered their overdue bills. A post from just last week. Can't wait for Christmas dinner. Proud to be hosting family in our home. Our celebration. Our delusion. The entitlement was staggering. But it was Michael's LinkedIn that gave me the final puzzle piece. His new connection, Patricia Morrison. The same Patricia Morrison who wrote the article dragging my name through the mud. I leaned back, scanning the damning mosaic of information spread across my screens. 3 fatal miscalculations. 1, they'd underestimated me. 2, they made their attack public, which gave me license to respond. And 3, they left an online trail of hypocrisy and self-indulgence tempting not to use. I clicked into Patricia Morrison's profile. 43. Journalism degree from WSU. 15 years in local media. No banking experience, which meant Cody reached out through an intermediary. A quick dive into Spokane's business directory confirmed it. 3 shared connections between Cody and Patricia's editor. This wasn't sloppy gossip, it was a surgical strike. But not surgical enough. I opened a blank document. Not a rebuttal. A timeline. 5 years of financial support. Every deposit. Every favor. Every debt repaid on their behalf. The down payment, $47,000. Kitchen remodel, $18,000. 60 mortgage payments at $2,800 a month. $168,000. Nearly $250,000. Dollars invested in a family that treated me like a disposable chauffeur. My phone buzzed with a number I didn't know. Isabella, most likely. I ignored it. I kept typing. By nightfall, I had a folder the size of a legal brief full of bank records, social media receipts, screenshots, and a printout of that newspaper article, annotated with red ink truth bombs beside every lie. I checked the date again. December 24th. Not just Christmas Eve, but the ideal day for revelation. According to Isabella's Facebook events, they were throwing a Christmas dinner for a dozen guests. Friends, family, neighbors, all the people they tried to impress. The kind of crowd who read the spoken review. The kind of crowd that deserved to know who they were actually dining with. I retrieved my high-quality camera from the kitchen cabinet originally, bought for worksite documentation. Tonight, it would record something far more revealing. Tomorrow was Christmas Eve, and tomorrow, the Jenkins family was going to discover the consequences of waging war on someone who understood how to fight. Christmas Eve arrived gray and bitingly cold, the kind of day that made you appreciate warmth, shelter, and companionship. Too bad I wouldn't be granted any of those. I had other priorities. I spread the evidence on my table like a prosecutor preparing closing arguments. Bank statements by year, payments highlighted, receipts arranged like a timeline of betrayal. Photos from their social media, Catherine's jewelry, Isabella's decor. The over-the-top Christmas display outside the very house I helped them buy. 12 identical packets, one for each guest. The newspaper article sat on top of every bundle, with my handwritten commentary calling out each fabrication, lie, falsehood, omitted context. I dressed with care navy blue suit, freshly pressed, the same one I wore to Maria's funeral. Today, it marked another farewell, a final goodbye to the man who let others walk over him. At 6:30 p.m., I packed the briefcase, drove to Kendall Yards, and parked across the street. The house gleamed with festive lights, cars lined the driveway, through the windows. I could see guests seated around a sparkling table, Isabella smiling, playing hostess in the home I paid for. I glanced at my watch, 6:45, perfect. The front door wasn't even locked. Of course it wasn't. Isabella loved to boast about how safe their idyllic neighborhood was, how they didn't need alarms or deadbolts like those in more troubled zip codes. I stepped inside quietly, warm air rushing to greet me alongside the unmistakable sounds of laughter and wine-soaked chatter spilling from the dining room. Then I heard Catherine's voice, lilting and smug. "But darling, that's not how we do things in our family." Laughter followed, casual, complicit, unbothered. Our family. After everything they had done to cast me out of it, I walked into the dining room, my briefcase in hand. 12 faces turned toward me at once, their expressions freezing in a synchronized shift from surprise to dread. Isabella stopped mid-sip, wine glass suspended in midair. Michael went ghostly pale. Cody and Catherine looked like they'd just witnessed a spirit rise from the grave. "Good evening," I said evenly, placing the briefcase on their polished marble sideboard. "I hope no one minds if I join your festive celebration." Isabella was the first to recover her voice. "Dennis, this is wildly inappropriate. You need to leave now." "Actually," I replied, opening the case and pulling out the first packet. "I think your guests deserve to learn who really paid for this holiday dinner, this luxurious home, and the elegant lifestyle you've been parading around like it's yours." A woman I didn't recognize, likely one of Catherine's charity gala companions, leaned forward with a mix of concern and curiosity. "Isabella, what's he talking about? He's having some kind of episode." Isabella snapped, her voice strained and sharp. "Michael, call someone." But I was already moving, methodically circling the table, placing a carefully collated stack in front of each guest. "These are the records," I said calmly. "Bank statements, wire transfers, canceled checks, 5 years of financial assistance, $168,000 in mortgage payments alone. Add the down payment, the renovations, the furnishings, the appliances, everything you see around you." A hush fell over the room. Only the delicate rustle of pages being turned broke the silence as 12 people examined the documents. I watched their expressions shift, curiosity turning to discomfort, then to disbelief, and finally, recognition. This is. One man began, trailing off as he scanned a highlighted figure. Disgraceful. Finished the woman seated beside him, fixing Isabella with a pointed stare. Why didn't you ever mention any of this? Isabella's composure cracked. The first real fissure in her carefully curated persona. It's complicated. Dennis offered to help us. We didn't ask him to. Actually, I cut in. Retrieving the folded newspaper article from my briefcase. Let's discuss what you did ask for and what you told the media about me. The room's temperature dropped. I laid the articles down one by one, and as they began to register the headline, my face, distorted in a dated photo, the atmosphere curdled into palpable tension. Now, I said, my voice ringing through the stillness. Let's have an honest conversation about who the real manipulators are in this family. Cody's complexion shifted from flushed red to paper white. Catherine sat bolt upright, her wine glass forgotten in her hand, trembling slightly. Mr. Jenkins here leveraged his banking connections to plant this hit piece. I continued, tapping the front page. Notice how I'm framed and hinged. Dangerous, a heartless man who abandoned to poor elderly victims in a freezing storm. A silver-haired gentleman in an expensive pullover looked up from the article. Cody, what is this? The weather was 52 degrees and sunny, I said, cutting off any reply. And they weren't some forgotten tourists. They were Isabella's parents. On their way to a Christmas dinner I was explicitly uninvited from because apparently I wasn't good enough to sit at this table. Catherine finally found her voice. That's not what we said. Then what did you say, Catherine? I countered, lifting my phone. On it, screenshots from Isabella's public posts. That I was too uncultured for your guests. That my food, my accent, my background were somehow beneath you. The charity woman leaned away from Catherine, her expression now unreadable. Catherine, tell me you didn't. He's twisting everything, Cody sputtered, but his tone lacked force. This man has serious emotional issues. The stress of aging, financial instability. Financial instability? I nearly laughed. Mr. Jenkins, I have been quietly funding your daughter's household nearly $3,000 a month for 5 consecutive years. The only financial crisis in this room is the one you're about to face. I addressed the table now, sweeping my gaze across a dozen stunned guests. These people took over $100,000 from me. In return, they manipulated my son, excluded me from family functions. And when I finally set a boundary, they launched a public smear campaign to destroy my name. Michael's voice cracked as he spoke for the first time, low and trembling. Dad, I didn't know about the article. I swear. But your wife did, I replied quietly. And her parents orchestrated every word of it. They cast me as the villain for refusing to continue being their ATM and chauffeur. The social gravity of the room shifted. The guests' eyes no longer darted toward me with confusion, but toward their hosts Cody, Catherine, Isabella with disgust, betrayal, and dawning realization. This is appalling, murmured an older woman in pearls, still staring at a payment summary. Cody, how could you allow your family to exploit this man then attack him when he stopped? Cody's mask was crumbling. You don't understand the full story, no. I understand perfectly. She shot back. This man supported your lifestyle, and when he stopped handing over checks, you tried to annihilate his reputation. To protect your pride, Catherine's voice emerged, thin and cracking. He left us at the airport. After you told me I wasn't welcome at Christmas, I said evenly. After years of subsidizing your life, you rejected me for being too Mexican, too blue-collar, too unpolished for your suburban fantasy. Silence. Crushing and complete. 12 pairs of eyes now fixed on Cody and Catherine, their perfect image dissolving under the weight of truth. Isabella gave one final gasp for control. Everyone, please. This is a family disagreement that spiraled out of no. I cut her off sharply. It became public the moment you defamed me in the newspaper. When you sacrificed my name for your vanity. I wanted you all to know the truth because the next time Dennis Flores makes the news, it'll be my version, the real story. I snapped my briefcase shut and adjusted my tie. Enjoy your dinner. It'll be the last one I finance. As I walked to the door, Chaos erupted behind me, voices rising, accusations flying, reputation splintering beneath the weight of truth. It was the most glorious Christmas soundtrack I'd ever heard. The letter arrived on a cool Tuesday morning. In March, delivered via certified mail. It carried the unmistakable weight of looming consequences. I signed for it at my door, inhaling the spring air, which now smelled of fresh beginnings and forward motion, not like the desperate, cold air that clung to those painful December days. Dotted across the envelope, notice of default, final demand for payment. The contents revealed that Michael and Isabella had missed 3 consecutive mortgage payments, $8 for 100 in arrears. They had 14 days to pay or face foreclosure proceedings on the house I once helped them buy. I set the letter down and resumed, sipping my coffee, reading the legal threat the way one might read about a distant storm. Worth noting, not worth worrying over. My phone had been ringing for weeks. Isabella's number was blocked after one explosive voicemail. Cody and Catherine, now social prize in Spokane, had tried their own damage control, but their influence had crumbled like stale shortbread. Even Michael had been calling, his tone shifting from defensive to desperate, until I stopped answering altogether. It took 97 days. That Thursday evening, he knocked on my door, not the polished, posturing son from Christmas Eve, but a man hollowed out by his own decisions. His expensive suit hung wrinkled on his frame. Shadows pooled beneath his eyes. He reeked of stress and fading privilege. "Dad," he said as I opened the door, "can we talk?" I stepped aside. "Sure." He walked in slowly, eyes scanning my home as though seeing it for the first time. The fresh paint, the updated furniture, the subtle piece of a space finally invested in me. Repairs I could finally afford. Beauty I finally kept. "Nice place," he murmured. "It's what happens," I said, settling into my recliner, "when you stop funding people who don't value you." "Coffee?" I offered. He shook his head, sitting at the edge of the couch like he wasn't sure if he was welcome. "Dad, I'm so sorry. About everything. Christmas, the article, Isabella, the way we treated you. Go on." I didn't know Cody planted that story. Not until after. He ran a hand through his unkempt hair. "Jesus, Dad, the things they said about you, about us, about Mom." My jaw clenched at her name. Still, I kept my voice even. "And what exactly did they say about your mother?" "That she knew her place," he said, barely whispering. "Better than you ever did. That she understood boundaries. They wouldn't look me in the eye. I should have stood by you. I should have spoken up years earlier." "Yes," I replied calmly, "you should have." We remained silent for what felt like forever, the burden of half a decade. Mistakes pressing down on the space between us. Outside, the sound of my neighbor mowing his lawn filtered in. Just an ordinary Thursday evening in an average suburban street, where sons didn't exile their fathers from Christmas dinner tables. The house is being foreclosed. Michael finally admitted. I already knew. We can't keep up with the payments. Unless, he hesitated, realizing what his words implied. "Unless I step in again," I said flatly. "Unless the same money I've been wiring each month while you let your in-laws treat me like discarded trash keeps flowing." "I understand, Michael. Believe me, I do." I leaned forward until his gaze met mine. "Do you have any idea how much I've sent over the past 5 years?" He nodded, looking ashamed. "Isabella totaled it after Christmas. The mortgage, the down payment, every cost. It added up to over $100 billion, to $137,000 for $168, I corrected. "I know the number exactly because I finally did something I should have done long ago. I tallied it all up." His expression fell apart. "Dad, I'm sorry. I don't even know how to make this right. You can't fix this, son. That money, it's gone. But what matters even more, those years, they're gone too. 5 years that could have been spent building a bond with you. Instead, I was funding your wife's dream life. I know that now. I truly do." He looked up at me with something like fragile hope. "But maybe we could rebuild. Maybe there's still time." "Are you asking me to start paying the mortgage again?" That flicker of hope vanished from his eyes. "We're going to lose everything, Dad. The house, Isabella's trust, her parents' respect, I feel completely lost. You'll find a way, I told him, not unkindly. Just as I figured out how to exist without a son who respected me. Just as I learned how to spend Christmas alone while you laughed with people who believed I wasn't worthy of sharing their table. He started crying, then quiet. Exhausted tears like a man who had run out of roads. I lost you, didn't I? I picked them over you, and now I've lost you forever. I studied him, this man I had raised, supported, loved, who let others convince him I wasn't good enough. Michael, I said softly, you didn't lose me, you handed me away. That's not the same thing. He wiped at his eyes with the back of his hand. Is there any chance you could forgive me? I already forgave you months ago, I said honestly. But forgiveness doesn't erase the past. It doesn't mean we rewind the clock or pretend none of this happened. And it certainly doesn't mean I'll go back to financing a life that only acknowledged me in the form of pity. Then what does it mean? I stood up and walked over to the mantel, where Maria's picture sat beside a new photo of me, Rosa, and her family gathered around the Easter table. My first holiday with people who were genuinely happy I was there. It means if you want to have a relationship with me, you'll have to rebuild it from the ground up. It means you show me the respect I deserve without demanding I prove myself. First, it means you start making decisions based on what's right, not what's easiest. I turned back toward him. And it means that next time, whether it's your wife, her parents, or anyone else tries to shut me out of family events, you'll remember who actually behaved like family. He nodded, perhaps truly realizing for the first time that respect is something you give, not assume. In the house? He asked, voice barely above a whisper. That's not your concern anymore. I sat back down, feeling lighter than I had in years. You're a grown man, Michael. Handle it like grown men do. Find a job that covers your expenses. Sell the house and downsize to something within reach. Stop living in a fantasy and expecting others to pay for the illusion. He stood, this time straighter than he had all evening. You're right about everything. I know. He stepped toward the door, then paused and looked back. Dad, just so you know, when you stood up for yourself at Christmas, it made me proud. I was embarrassed and angry, yeah, but proud. Good, I said. Then maybe there's still a chance for you. Once he left, I poured myself a glass of the top-shelf whiskey and stepped out onto the porch. Spring had come to Spokane. The trees were budding. The air smelled of renewal and hope. And for months, I turned 63. Maria had been gone for 8 years, and I had wasted 5 of those trying to earn a place at a table where I was never welcome. I didn't intend to waste another moment. My phone vibrated, a message from Rosa. Dinner Sunday. The kids want to show you their school projects. I smiled as I typed back. Wouldn't miss it. True family, I'd learned, wasn't always the one you were born into. It was the one that wanted you there. The rest? Just high-cost theater. And I was done buying tickets to a show where I wasn't allowed on stage. The whiskey tasted like release, and the road ahead looked just as bright as I was ready to let it be.